Okay. Okay.
Hi, everybody. This is Gertrude Butcher again here in Wellington, New Zealand. I have yet another guest in America by the name of Laura Brown. Laura, please, can you say exactly where you're based, how old you are, and what part of life are you on, and how did you get there?
Okay. I'm in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I'm 52 years old, and where I am in life is just a culmination of just little things that have happened to me. It goes back to being a little girl, and my mom, she passed away when I was 12 on my very first day of junior high, heading out the door. And, my dad says, you guys hold up, wait. And, finding out right there that, my life had changed forever. And so for a 12-year-old girl, to lose her mom, that was a little bit of a setback. But I learned to be resilient through that. That particular day, and even though it's been over 40 years ago, it just still sticks out in my mind because the day that my mom died, I was the only one in the house who knew everyone's phone numbers. And so I was tasked with making all the phone calls to my brothers, to my sister, to my aunts. And I held that particular day, I didn't get a chance to really grieve. After all the calls were made, I remember I had a little poodle, and he was sitting on the back porch and had this dusty little dingleberry sitting on him. And I hugged him and I cried into his fur, and his name was Midnight. And I said, I cried my tears on midnight that particular day. And just, bouncing, back from that, and, going through life and making, horrible life choices. I got into an abusive marriage for just a couple of years. I got wise and got out of that. But, even going through that, emotional and physical abuse, where I'd always been told during that time that I was never worthy enough for this particular person, even though he was, physically abusing me and things like that. But I was never worthy enough. I was never pretty enough. My teeth were never straight enough. My hair wasn't long enough. My skin wasn't clear enough. I was never enough. And to, go through that and never feeling like you're enough, and how to bounce back from that and figure out at some point that I was worthy enough to get out of that relationship.
Oh, wow.
I was worthy enough. My daughter, yeah. I'm sorry.
Let's go back to your childhood just for a second.
Okay.
Was there a lead up?
Mm-hmm.
Was your mom ill? Was it a sudden death? What were the circumstances of her passing?
She was diagnosed with stomach cancer probably when I was about 10. I vaguely remember, they try to keep it hush hush from a 10-year-old, but I was kind of in the background there. So I knew she was sick, but I didn't have an understanding of cancer. 10-year-olds back in the 70s weren't as savvy as the 10-year-olds now. And so I didn't understand the impending death. I knew she is sick. I watched her go through, drive herself to chemotherapy treatments and radiation treatments and things like that. And so she had been, they didn't know what it was for a couple of years. They did all kinds of surgeries. And then by the time they realized it was stomach cancer, it was really too far gone for them to do anything. And so, it was a slow death for her, while I watched her kind of whittle away from that.
So sorry to hear that. And so in the relationship that you were in, you realized that you had sold yourself short, but you had the courage to kick yourself out of it and rebuild your life. What happened from there?
Well, I was in the military at the time. He wasn't. And it was this one night, I had a little girl, and she, up until this point, she had never seen him put his hands on me. And this particular night, he was upset about a grilled cheese sandwich or something. And, his hands were around my throat and, lifted me up against the wall. But I could see over his shoulder older and see the fear in my daughter's face. And she was about 3 at the time. And it was just, right then and there, I was like, no, I've had enough. And he asked me, well, do you want me to leave? And that was the very first time I said, yes, I need you to pack up your things and go. And he was gone, that very next day. It was like, I've had enough. And, from then it was just a slow point of always trying to prove I was enough, that I was attractive or that I was enough. And so it took me a couple of years just to really wrap my mind around, somewhat of my value. And, and even still, I still struggle sometimes with realizing, I am enough. I've been married now to a wonderful man for the last 26 years who always, affirms me, but it's still, in the back of my head, I'm still working on, I am enough.
Now, you seem to have harnessed all of this life experience and valued your story enough to become a writer, and now you are inspiring other people to write and share their stories in a business. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay, well, once again, even this, I call it an accidental success. I really had no intention on doing this as a lifestyle, but it started with, once again, my failure to live up to what I said I was going to do. I've been trying for years to. I had a book in my mind that I was going to write, and I'd start and stop and couldn't get it finished. And so, one day I just said, I can't be the only one. And I sent an email out to my church family and said, hey, who wants to write a book with me? And I figured about 2 or 3 people, we could sit around my dining room table, eat cookies, drink coffee, and muddle it through. And the first night I had about 14 people show up in my dining room. And so, I was like, okay, well, wow, it's kind of shocked me. And so I was afraid, a lot of fear and hesitation, because once again, I had no clue what I was doing. I didn't know how to write a book. I didn't know what it took. And I'm staring at 28 pairs of eyes saying, okay, help us write our book. And so we muddled through. It took us 6 months, and 11 of us finished. But people say, well, are you going to do this again? Are you going to do this again? And I'm like, again. And so, and so I just said, I just kind of stepped up to the plate and said, yes, we can do this again. And so, I did it. I've actually written my own workbook now on how to write books, and I've done online courses and things like that, and have helped over 60 authors birth their books since 2014.
Oh, fantastic. That is just an amazing story. So we're going to end the interview with you giving us 3 nuggets of wisdom. What advice would you give to somebody who's sitting on the fence, who's not sure they want to write, who's scared and fearful? What advice would you give them?
Once again, that your story can save someone's life, that someone needed to hear your story yesterday. And so, just your story can save a life. Number 2 is, once again, you are enough to put into the written pages. What you have inside is enough. And I guess number 3 would be, never minimize what's inside of you in order to make others feel better. That what's inside of you is valuable, and it needs to come out, no matter who is against it, who might feel bad about the words you have to say. Don't minimize what's inside of you. You have to get it out.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much for doing this interview. How can people get hold of you?
You can reach me at my website, www.coachlaurabrown.com, or you can email me at coachlaurabrown@gmail.com.
Fantastic. Laura, thank you so much. It was an absolute honor meeting you, and hopefully one of these days when I come to the States, we will meet in person.
Yes. Or I can come to New Zealand. That would be
Oh, you
great
can
too.
come to New Zealand. Yes, that would be
Oh
awesome.
yeah.
Thanks so
That
much,
will.
Laura.
Yeah. We have a friend in Queensland, and I think that's kind of close to where you are in Australia.
Yeah.
I'm not a Yeah. So she's been trying to get us to come to Queensland, Australia. So you never know.
Take care.
All right. Bye bye.